in college, I went to school for engineering, plastics to be precise. And while there, and as most engineers, you look for some activity to do that's related to engineering. And I joined the solar team. I joined that over some of the others, with the Formula car and that stuff was, there was too many people in that. I wanted to do something where I could actually make a difference and be more involved in the building process and the racing part of it. The solar cars, we built everything from scratch. We built molds, we built a composite body, which related to my field of engineering and plastics. So we spent about a year building the car and then put it in a shipping container, shipped it off to Australia. I stayed behind for a few days prior to that because I was still making the wheels for it. And at the time, this wasn't something very common, but carbon fiber wheels for the car. So I had made these carbon fiber wheels, packed them into a box, and took them with me on the plane. When I get to Australia, I had a layover at one airport. I got in, I think, at 3 in the morning, 2 or 3 in the morning. It was late, and there was no way to get to the other airport I had to get to, so I slept at the airport. And I've never been in an airport. I'm in a foreign country. I got this box of parts, so I said, well, I'll sleep on top of it. On the couch. I put the box on the couch. It was my pillow and my suitcase underneath, and I slept on top of my stuff so it wouldn't get stolen while I was asleep because I didn't know. I was very nervous, being in a foreign country. But everything worked out. I got on the other flight. I got to Darwin is where we started, and we drove the entire outback from Darwin to Adelaide. It's the World Solar Challenge. It's held every 3 years, at least back then. I'm not sure, I haven't kept up with it, but it was every 3 years. And it's always from Darwin to Adelaide, and it takes about a week. So there's multiple classes. So one class we were considering which was what Honda was, is a 2-person class. There's also a single-person class. The advantage of a 2-person car is you have more area for solar panels because you're restricted on how many solar panels you can have on the vehicle. And so if you went with 2-person, you could put more panels and more batteries in. So your restrictions are how many batteries you can use and how many solar panels or how large the panel can be on the vehicle. And we actually built 2 cars. We built a 2-person car, which we hadn't completed in time, and we had a single-person car. So we went with the single-person car because that got finished first. And you basically lay down. The 2-person car, you're basically laying down, and your head was kind of like this, and the panel came right up to here, and you had a little bubble over your head. Or the single-person one is very similar. You had a little bit more upright of a stance, but you're still basically laying down because you want to be as flat as you can for aerodynamics, and you want to take as much surface area as you can use to put the solar panels on. So if you crash, it's basically a guillotine because that panel, so you don't want to crash. That's something you want to try to avoid. It's done in stages. So because you're driving basically experimental cars that are not much structure to them, that they don't let you drive at night because of the animals, kangaroos, road trains. They have these road trains and trailers with 3 to 6 trailers on them. And so they get kind of hairy. And so you can only drive between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. And you're restricted. And you actually have a marshal that rides with you from time to time. At any point in time, you might have one of these guys with you to make sure you follow the rules during the driving time. So there's different strategies you can take. Now, the previous year, their strategy was to make a bullet-shaped vehicle because parts of the Outback at the time in the 90s had no speed limits. You could drive as fast as you want. So their approach was to drive as fast as they could and then stop in the afternoon on peak sun and open up the solar panel that they had that folded into the back. And that was donated from NASA on loan. It was basically a solar panel that is used on a satellite that's up in space that they let us use. But that car had complications and never finished the race. So the year that I was there, the goal was to finish, to get from point A to point B. Didn't matter what place we came in, but we just wanted to finish. And we took the approach of having fixed solar panels on the car to add to that, to give us a little advantage, maybe a little speeds. We didn't have to use as much of the batteries. And we actually had sails on it. The sails aren't your typical sails you'd see in a old, ship, big cloth. They're actually basically vertical wings. Kind of what you would see on some of the more modern sailboats you see out there, the racing sailboats, where they just have those giant vertical wings. That's basically what they were. And the driver could control them with a lever that could turn them to take advantage of the wind, depending on wind direction, because it's pretty windy in the Outback. I don't know if it helped or not. We did it for a couple days, and then a couple days we took them off, and really didn't see much difference between the two, and we just felt, well, we'll just leave them off and run, without them, because they did add some drag to the vehicle. And so that's where you kind of have that advantage. And so every day we'd stop. Your plan is there's only so many places along the Outback that you can stop at. They have these little, what they call roadhouses. And it's basically a building that also has bunks, so you can sleep in a bunk bed basically, and has a restaurant, has a bar, post office, gas station, all in one, and just one little shack on the side of the road. So some days you may stop a little early, it's say 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, to take advantage of stopping at a roadhouse versus sitting in the middle of nowhere and camping out at night. So some nights we may stop early, take advantage of the peak sun, charge the batteries up, so when we start in the morning we're fully charged and we can go faster the next day. And then some nights we camped out. And one night we camped out, it was such a beautiful night. I mean, it was perfect temperature, perfect humidity. We didn't even use our tents. We just put our sleeping bags up on top of the supply trailer and just slept out under the stars, which was just an amazing experience to just sleep out under the stars. There's no bugs at night. It's weird, it's the opposite of the US. During the day, there's all the bugs are out, but at night, the flies go away. So you got this nice experience in the outback, sleeping under the stars. And on the last day, we were driving and the car at speed, maybe 65, 70 miles an hour on the road. And I look over and there's a kangaroo pacing us, just running alongside. So whatever speed that was, I'm not sure how fast we were going, but highway speeds, because we're on, on the outback. And he was just running along and I got video of him just pacing us. And it's just amazing to see that, just kangaroo. And he's just running along, just right beside us as long as he could. And then he got tired and kind of did his own thing and we finished it. We came in, I think 32nd or 33rd out of, I think 45 or 50, maybe a little more. So we weren't last, but we weren't first. I mean, the first place car was built by Honda. Honda built the car, and interesting, Honda also made carbon fiber wheels for theirs, which looked much nicer and more professional than mine. They had an autoclave, I didn't, so. But it was very impressive, and it was something that I'll always remember, and I'm glad I did, and I had a lot of fun doing it. For me, it was more a enjoyment as a lover of cars. I like to do anything related to cars, and so it was a little bit different from my normal love for cars because I love gas engines and, lots of power, so this was kind of the opposite of that. But it was just fun to build something from scratch and see it drive across the country. The composite side of things, there was a company that we had worked with that we used that made crew rowing boats, and that's where you use their ovens and stuff to make the parts. But it's such a niche market, and there really isn't a lot, at least back in the 90s, wasn't a lot of potential for growth into a company where you're gonna make the kind of salary you could make doing other parts of plastics. And so I ended up going into injection molding side of the industry and, the engineering side of that, technical service kind of thing. But the full circle is now the company I work for transferred me from my previous position with the injection molding materials into now I'm with the composite side. So now I'm back working with composites as my career, and I sell the raw material to people that make all these cool stuff.
Between cannonballs and rallies and car treks, I've been on well over 100 road trips, but one of the things that I always see is that nobody else is terribly prepared. And this is not just a jab at Freddie, but generally people don't bring the tools, the supplies, and the things they need to make it all the way to the destination of their road trip. And so I decided, after building kind of the kit that I take between cars for the long drives I go in unreliable vehicles, as the ultimate road trip survival kit. And you'll find a link in the description below to an Amazon shopping cart of the things that I think you need in order to get there and get there without a tow bill attached to it. So check it out now, buy what you think you want, let me know in the comments what I left out, and we'll try to keep refining it so we can build the ultimate road trip survival box.